What's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're going to recap this week in cannabis from February 1st to the 7th. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learn something, all I ask is that you leave a thumbs up, as it really helps out my channel. And then, of course, if you think this is going to be a big industry and you want to learn how to take advantage, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any new videos. But I would recommend going back and watching at least episode 3 and episode 4, possibly episode 7 of Reality Check Cannabis in 2020, and then you can watch episodes of This Week in Cannabis from October up until now, where I've been focusing on what would be the best case scenario out of the election, and now that that best case scenario did happen, how soon can we expect legislation changes and for this industry to boom? Now, we're going to start off on a high note, is that cannabis sales accelerated into December, and things have ended off strong. So Western markets are the more mature markets, but in December, growth ranged from 23% in Nevada to 42% in Oregon compared to a year ago. So these are mature industries, but still seeing large year-over-year growth. So we'll start with Arizona. They're only doing medical. And remember, Arizona, as of January 2021, have legalized adult use. But so what we can see, they totaled $91.6 million in December, which is up 6% from November, but 30% from December a year ago. 30% year over year is still very good. California, this includes medical and adult use. Again, 5% sequentially from November, but 25% from a year ago to $314 million in December alone. Pretty massive numbers. But again, California is like its own country in itself, with 40 million people and the 5th largest GDP in the world. Colorado, the most mature adult market, in December sales increased 34% from a year ago, and they reached $2 billion for the first time in a single year, which is amazing. Nevada, tourism had affected them greatly, so they only saw 1% growth from November to December, but 23% up 23% from a year ago, which is, again, phenomenal. Very strong. And then Oregon as well, sales spiked with year-over-year growth well above recent months at 42%. So very strong out of the Western markets. And now the newer Eastern markets, this is where we see a lot of promise, especially because Illinois legalized adult use January 2020. And so what we can see that they were bringing in medical, but the moment they opened adult use, we see their overall cannabis sales rose 343% compared to a year ago. This is why new investors, you want to get into these markets that have just legalized adult use and are really going to see the growth jump from selling medical only to medical plus adult use, right? This goes from 23 to 43 with Nevada and Oregon to 343 compared when you add adult use. So this is huge for Illinois, and they ended off the year strong. And as we saw, I think I might have done it in the last video, they surpassed their December sales in January too, so they followed that streak. Maryland, they only have medical, but again, it's good to see they're up 63% from a year ago and 10% up from November. And Maryland is actually featured a bit later. They plan on legalizing adult use in 2021, so we can expect Maryland to be a new market in 2022 that is worth considering investing in the MSOs that increase their footprint there in those sales. And then Massachusetts as well, rising 11% from November and 75% from a year ago. So all across the board, this is great, but what we can see is that at least Maryland, who plans to legalize adult use, they're going to see significant growth from where they're at right now in the low $1 million range, because we saw Illinois do exactly that, and what we can expect at least out of this year is for Arizona to do the same. Now, we also don't have any New Jersey medical info, but nonetheless, this is a great start. And what we can see is if you look at Google Trends, where you just go to Google, type Google Trends, cannabis stocks has finally reached the popularity or exceeded the popularity it had hit in about September of 2018 when Canada was going to legalize. Now, I'm very excited to show you this, folks, because I think this is amazing just for the context and the big picture. But if we look at Canada in the last 5 days, nice, we've seen their market is trending upwards. Over the last month, since the new year, all this good positive momentum has not only helped U.S. multi-state operators, but Canadian LPs. If we go 3 months back, since I started making the standalone This Week in Cannabis episodes, again, Canadian companies appear to have seen some strong growth throughout the year. But let's just take a look. Big picture-wise, they're really just starting to gear it up. But again, it was 2017 going into 2018 when all the buzz about legalization happened. This was when we saw the first run-up. Then we saw what was the bubble, because these companies were valued at $20 billion, $15 billion, and they were only making $20 million in revenue. Didn't make any sense. And that was this was where we legalized, and then the short report about Afria came out, and then a little bit of more life came, and then just the bubble popped. And reality hit for Canada. But this is very interesting. If we look at the US, again, 5 days, we're seeing a steady uptrend. 1 month, again, I mean, the best uptrend, the clearest uptrend we could possibly imagine. But If we look at 6 months, again, since I made this series, if you've been following me and you've taken advantage, good on you for putting in the work and being able to do so. But look at this. If we go 10 years back, they have just surpassed their 2019 highs. And just look at like this. I compare this, like the 2017, 2018, 2019 hype to this 2017 in Canada. I kid you not. Because when you think about the fact that these companies were significantly overvalued and they've only gone down since, and we're starting to see them, appreciated or respected for their actual value. Some of the companies, mainly like Afria, VFF, and Canopy. This is the bump. Sorry. I want to zoom out. I didn't want to do that. Okay, I'll zoom back out. But like again, this is the bump that you saw from here in Canada. So what we're anticipating is the US version of legalization hype. And again, there's no promise that legalization is going to come very soon. And that just essentially, again, means the MORE Act passing. The Safe Banking Act will likely come sooner. We have been told that cannabis legalization will be a priority this year, we hope. But that's why I compare all of this to just this. And we haven't even seen Canada's version of a big run-up because of legalization. And then the fact that these U.S. companies are not even undervalued like the Canadian ones. They're not even overvalued like the Canadian ones. These U.S. MSOs are significantly undervalued. This is just crazy. And I don't know how high it's going to go. So just make sure, everyone, if you are up or you want to lock in profits, have a price where you want to get out and you feel good about doing that. Just because we're heading into unprecedented waters, but unlike the Canadian bubble in 2018 where these companies were severely overvalued and saw the prices fall, these US MSOs are, again, growing faster than tech companies and are significantly undervalued. So we don't know how big this is going to go, but just make sure that you're prepared and that you know to have your prices to get out and lock in profits beforehand, because this could go on for a few years, again, as the growth is expected to continue in the US for a long time, as there's so many more states. Nonetheless, I just want to show you that because I think that's amazing. Now, the good news is that Schumer, the man in charge of making this happen, is reiterating the fact that he is for reform and he's making it a priority, as Schumer urges cannabis reform in meeting with Attorney General Garland and other Department of Justice nominees. And he said to Attorney General nominee Merrick Garland, respect the rights of states that have legalized cannabis during a recent meeting. And that is so important, because what makes the U.S. a great concept as a country is that it's one big country made up of 50 different states. And you need to respect the states that are willing to, take the lead and obviously progress more than others. And so, it's very important for the Attorney General to respect this. But nonetheless, it's just good to see Schumer emphasizing more on cannabis as a priority. We need much more discussion focused on police accountability, voting rights, federal marijuana enforcement policy, domestic terrorism, and accountability for those who participated in the violent insurrection. But basically just saying, look, the Department of Justice needs to look at cannabis as a big social justice or criminal justice issue as well. Respect the rights of states that have legalized cannabis and bring participants again. So basically, it's good to see Schumer, again, fighting for cannabis. We've never had this momentum behind us. And on Friday, he hosted the first cannabis meeting to formulate 2021 a federal legalization plan. So again, we don't have a lot of news on what's actually going to be in there, what the substance is made up of inside here, but we just know that the intention is there, and they've got a team. The Finance Committee Chair, Ron Wyden, knows that if you want to increase the finances, you need to bring in more tax, which is take a prohibited industry, legalize it, tax and regulate it, right? No duh. But again, so it's just good that the people that are in power of making this happen are talking. So again, we're still just waiting for them to hopefully make some decisions sooner than later, but we are in unprecedented waters, folks, and it's a very exciting times for us cannabis investors. Now, for states and legislation changes, Virginia lawmakers passed marijuana legalization bill, which is awesome. Pending the signature, however, dispensaries could open the state in 2024, while legalization would start as soon as the summer. So without a doubt, hey, it's good that Virginia has actually also already decriminalized cannabis. They did that in 2020. Which just means that you will not go to jail for being arrested, which makes 100% sense. But that allows the black market to run rampant until 2024. That makes no sense. And I mean, coming from a state, if this is the policy that the leaders are making, you should consider moving, because seriously, this is a senator from Virginia, Amanda Chase, saying this person is right. We have a drug problem in Virginia, and legalizing marijuana will only lead to more marijuana overdoses and deaths. Democrats want more marijuana deaths. How can this person be sharing these false opinions as facts and be voted in as a senator? So if you're in Virginia, it's the environment that's dragging you down. I'm sorry, just get out of there. Go somewhere better. It will change the quality of your life significantly. And look, I'm very glad I was able to be like, hey, Senator Amanda Chase, you idiot. cannabis dispensaries are linked to nearly 30% drop in opioid deaths. And this one definitely it caught people's attention, but just like, this is what keeps humanity from progressing. Morons like this, my goodness. So, other good news out of Maryland, the lawmakers are pushing for a bill to legalize cannabis. So they do have co-sponsors on this one as well. So that's great out of Maryland, who again has their medical program going, but they will be adding to that with adult use if that does pass. Lawmakers push to legalize cannabis for personal use in Hawaii. So this is also great to just see that the momentum and the narrative is being changed with these news articles and with lawmakers paying attention to what the people want. And Ala-freaking-Bama, their Senate committee has approved a medical cannabis legalization bill. So, even when we go as far red and as far south as Alabama, they are even getting up with the times and realizing that they need an alternative to opioids. And yes, so this is great news as well. Just, again, more dominoes keep falling, which is what we want to see. Now, Curaleaf expands their Florida retail footprint, opening their 34th dispensary in the state. So, again, there's not a whole lot of news coming out of these MSOs, but they don't need to be putting out press releases when they're just executing and continuously expanding like this. Another example of an MSO getting prepared is Vireo Health, which has announced its filing of Form S8 with the SEC. Now, again, they can't uplist on U.S. exchanges yet, but after becoming a full SEC reporting company earlier this year, today's filing represents another administrative step in our planned transition to listing on the U.S. exchange sometime in the future. So yeah, of course, it's just good news that these MSOs are preparing. Vireo has that nice footprint in New York as well. But another thing to bring up this week though, so GW Pharma is a biotech company. They're not an MSO, so that's why I haven't really been covering them compared to others. But their sales open the floodgate, this deal of GW Pharma being purchased by Jazz Pharmaceuticals, a much larger pharma company, is the first of its kind that we've seen a big pharma jump into the CBD medicine space. So again, though, I mainly focus on MSOs, so I don't know a whole lot about GW Pharma. I know that they have a CBD-based, their first FDA-approved CBD-based drug called Epidiolex. Or again, not drug, I want to say medicine, because I just don't like how you can corroborate that word. And anyways, this is awesome for GW Pharma and again for biotech, but biotech is still just a much riskier industry than these US MSOs. So if you were to venture into biotech and want to take advantage of that, again, just it's opening new doors for mergers and acquisitions and expansion of the industry, which is ultimately a good thing. But you can read more about that down here. Now jumping over to Canada, legal recreational cannabis sales in Canada outstrip illicit spending for the first time, which is great. As we can see, I think in the third quarter of last year, sales reached 820 million Canadian, where unlicensed non-medical sales were estimated, you don't actually know, but estimated at 754 million. So for the first time, and yeah, no duh, this happens when you open up enough physical brick and mortar retail locations so that your public people, that your citizens can actually access legal cannabis. No duh. So yeah, although they planned to have this eliminated in 2018, it took until almost 2021. It's trial and error. That's what happens when you create a new industry out of nothing, but this is great to see in Canada, which means more sales as more stores in Ontario open at a rate of 80 a month are going to be coming from the legal market, which puts money in the government's pockets, these companies' pockets, and as investors in our pockets. Now, Tilray exports their first shipment of medical cannabis to Spain. So again, this is very good for any Tilray or Aphria holders waiting on that merger, because again, Canada is such a small market, but what the dominant players in Canada are doing are taking care and covering their bases in global international markets, because again, medical, with the UN voting to deschedule cannabis earlier in December of 2020, so that the world can just really open up their eyes to the medical benefits of cannabis first and foremost before they go recreational. This is big because, of course, yes, that's what Tilray and Aphria are lined up to do, capitalize on that European footprint, and they've got a big foothold in Germany. They've got that facility in Portugal where they can send through, and now they're using that to get into Spain. So that's awesome. Another update from Health Canada is that they're looking at there's a forward regulatory plan into 2020-2022, a proposed approach to the regulation of health products containing cannabis that would not require practitioner oversight. Now, this is basically all it is selling CBD products over the counter so that you don't actually have to get a prescription or have like a medical advice from a doctor to get it. Now, so basically what they're saying is they've been looking into this, and they had an online consultation, much like how France is sort of getting questions answered from their public. But feedback obtained from this public policy consultation and from the Science Advisory Committee will support Health Canada in developing a potential regulatory approach for non-prescription health products containing cannabis in a way that protects both public health and safety, supporting Canadians in making informed decisions about their health. So this would stand for being able to go to a Shoppers Drug Mart or just a CVS, like a pharmacy, and buying CBD products. You can actually do that in the US, but in Canada we don't right now, or we can't. So we don't have that option. That's great for Canada's market. And what Canopy is doing already is expanding into the pet niche with CBD products. So the next step in Canada is, of course, is allow this for humans over the counter where you don't need prescription, and that will open this market up big time and allow, Canopy, even with CBD products, to compete with big pharma and other prescription medication that people have been using for years, but clearly is not that healthy for us. So yeah, that's great news. And this is just on the eve of, Tuesday, Canopy will be releasing their third quarter financial results. Now, if we look at what they did in November, net revenue of $135 million, but they lost $97 million, unprofitable by EBITDA loss of $86 million, increased their market share by 2% in Canada. Not great overall. So we're going to be looking, it's going to be interesting to see what Canopy does and how the market responds. Traditionally, they haven't really responded badly to it, but when you look at, in Canada, business to consumer, so this is selling, only 43% year-over-year growth from Q2 2020 to Q2 2021. That's not capturing a lot of growth in Canada. And when you look at their actual international medical revenue for a footprint outside of Canada, they lost 3% of sales. So like year over year, they shrunk. They did not grow. And a lot of their revenue is coming from this whatever all other revenue is. So, their net cannabis revenue is not even over 100 million. Although comparatively with Aphria, at least Aphria is taking more market share quarter over quarter and year over year. But so because of this, I'm very interested to see what Canopy is going to post and how the market's going to react. But fundamentally, they have a lot riding on their deal to purchase the U.S. multi-state operators, a piece of TerraSend, and to take over acreage when U.S. legalization does happen. So, again, if when that does take place, Canopy is going to have a huge advantage with that. But as of their Canadian operations, it's going to be interesting to see what they post. So just to recap, though, I found this awesome infograph that I wanted to share. So 9 things cannabis investors should know in 2021, because we're in uncharted waters, but with the best possible, leadership, momentum, and sentiment behind us. So stocks are on the rise. As I just showed you earlier, the stock performance of the North American cannabis companies has hit its all-time high and is about to exceed it. But considering the fact that these companies are stronger than ever, most of them are profitable, or at least close to profitability, it's a very different picture than in 2018. Number 2, COVID and cannabis. Despite the initial stock plummet, cannabis sales have hit all-time highs in every state and in every Canadian province, pretty much. In Canada, they reached 270 million in October. Now, this is all of Canada, not just our provinces. So keep in mind, we've got one province with 14 million people. Our second largest province has 8 million people. So most sales are coming through there when more stores are opening up finally. But nonetheless, when you consider a year that seemed so disastrous, this industry is thriving. And this is just Canada. The U.S. is thriving way more because the U.S. has 10 times more people. Now, move over black market. In the U.S., the illicit market continues to be the only option for millions who live on cannabis-restricted states. However, sales of legal cannabis could continue to grow over the next several years while black market sales decline, and they're anticipating it to look like this. Legal sales in the U.S. U.S. sales were $6 billion, 2026, $50 billion. Illegal sales would go from $25 billion in 2016 to less than $1 billion. Now, keep this in mind, folks. You don't want to invest until 2022 and then sell for a profit, because we're likely going to be seeing this growth over 2023, 2024, 2025, which is why the buy and hold strategy is what I am doing. And although none of this is advice, I'm sharing my perspective with you in hopes that you see that this is a nice long-term opportunity we've got here. And positive political change in the U.S. was the biggest thing that we need. At the end of 2020, the House of Representatives, which at the time was dominated by the Democrats, passed the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, the MORE Act, to decriminalize cannabis on the national level. And hey, even since then, when we look at the 10 largest projected legal U.S. markets, California, Colorado, Florida doesn't even have recreational yet, Illinois, Michigan, Massachusetts, Washington, Arizona just opened up, Oklahoma's medical is massive, but there is still so much growth happening, and 2/3 of Americans now support full legalization of cannabis. So it's not even a question. It is going to happen, folks, which is great. Thank goodness we got that unfortunate or that ancient party out that, just likes to stall progress. And that was really the big catalyst. But next we do have Europe. And that is why I think Aphria and Tilray, well, again, I think Aphria fundamentally, is the one that has really set themselves up with their German footprint and CC Pharma, that distribution network that they have. But the European cannabis market will be worth over $39 billion by 2024, with countries like Germany, Europe's largest economy, leading the way. So when I've recently in past videos talked about France now having consultation and talking with their citizens, and the Irish now having a medical program, and considering that Tilray has now just shipped product to Spain, we are seeing that the European market is becoming more friendly to cannabis, which is great. And they're expecting the size of another $40 billion opening up there. Mexico is making history as they're actually finalizing their bills and legalization, and expect to do that in February. So once that happens, then you will have later February, but then you'll have Canada and Mexico with full legal addressable markets. And then you've got Canada and Mexico, and then you've got the US in the middle, though. Like, you think they're just going to miss out on that opportunity? I don't think so. And then, nonetheless, what's good is it's evolving. The way people consume cannabis is changing too. Flower still dominates, but edibles and concentrates and extracts are becoming more popular too. CBD is moving into the mainstream, again, because it's more accessible. Because of the 2018 Farm Bill, you can now actually purchase legitimate CBD products from these companies in the US as well, which is great. And then lastly, though, the new cannabinoids on the block. Apparently, scientists have discovered over 100 rare cannabinoids, such as CBG and CBN, on top of the major cannabinoids. So imagine every cannabis plant has major cannabinoids, but then 100 plus rare ones that we haven't even figured out. And so this is why we need the money to go into finding out positive therapeutic benefits, as opposed to wasting billions of dollars a year trying to find harms that simply don't exist, never have, and never will. So I hope this has been a great infograph to round this all off, but I just want to share and compare that. Seriously, folks, this is where we sit today, is that these U.S. companies are in the best position for success, and they're literally just about to break through their all-time highs and into unknown territory. So again, why I think and I believe now is the best time to get in early, before U.S. legislation passes and allows U.S. big institutions to get in, and in fact, before they do decriminalize and deschedule cannabis and legalize it fully. If you can get in sooner than later, and then hold long, I think you will be rewarded, as I have been, and as have many people that have been following thus far. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the description if I missed anything as well. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. Otherwise, subscribe so that you don't miss any new content, and I will catch you guys next week for a midweek update. Have a great weekend, everybody.